Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm showing you how to make this corset top. And as usual, if you're interested in the pattern, you can find a link in the description below. So as usual for my projects, I start with interfacing the main fabric. Some of you have asked for what interfacing is. It basically is a fabric with glue. So you usually use it to make your main fabric a little bit thicker. As you can see here, I'm using an iron, but you can use the press. And I'm using baking paper so I do not burn the interfacing. So after I connected the main fabric and interfacing, I pin on the pattern. Then just cut it out as close as you can to the paper pattern. And do this step for all of the main fabric. You do not have to do this step for interface the fabric, the lining fabric. I use the same fabric as I use for the main, but you can choose any other fabric. Here you can see that I cut out all of the pieces. And then just pin them together. You will see on the pattern what pieces goes with what. We'll just pin them together and make a straight line, straight stitch. So now we are going to create an opening for the boning. So just put the seam allowance to one side. And I make my opening around 7 millimeters. So just understitch 7 millimeters from the main seam. All the way down. And for the cup, I'm just going to press it open. You can understitch it too, but I thought it would look better without it. So now you can connect the third part, the upper cup part. Just connect them and sew them together. After you sew them together, put the seam allowance to the upper cup and understitch. So now just cut away the seam allowance. And now it's time to connect the top with the cup. So I usually start with the sides. You will notice that the cups are a little bit bigger than the opening on the top, but this is normal. Don't panic. You have done everything correct. It should be like that. It's the same thing as when you're trying to insert the sleeve to a blazer. You will always have the sleeve a little bit bigger. As you can see, I have a small fold here, so I'm moving around the pins and it will be soon gone. As you can see, it's gone now. So after you sewn together the cup and the top, you can add padding. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Please, if you're adding the padding, don't forget to leave at least 1 centimeter at the top, because we're gonna connect the lining and the straps. So we have to have 1 centimeter seam allowance at the top. As you can see, I'm just pinning it around so I will not have any folds anywhere. Now you have to connect the padding with the top. Try to make the stitch as close to that original seam as possible. Then just cut away all of the seam allowances. And as you see, it looks perfect, no fold anywhere. Now I'm creating the straps. Just fold it together and make a straight stitch. Now I'm just turning it right side out. As you can see, I'm using the hook, but if you want to, you can use a needle and some thread or a pin. Now I'm going to iron it. So the seam allowances, I put them in the middle on one side. I do not press them open. And here you can see that I cut out the lining pieces and then I sewed them together, and as you can see, I did the underlining on every seam on the top. You do not have to do that. If you want to, you can just press the seams open. So here you can see that I've connected the lining and the main part and added the straps in between them. And I'm going to sew them together only on the front side. As you can see here, it's not all the way around, because now it will be easier for me to double check that my strap length is good. And I tried the top on, and now I can sew together the main part and the lining all the way around. And here I'm making small cuts on the seam allowance, because now we're going to understitch the seam allowance to the lining side, and so it will not create any waves or folds. I only do that in the middle. And now, as you can see, I'm folding the seam allowance to the lining side and understitch. I usually understitch it like 1 or 2 millimeters from the seam. And as you can see, I do not start from the beginning. Please start around 3-4 centimeters, because then it will be easier for you to connect the top on the back. This is what it's looked like after you've understitched it. And now I'm just cutting away all of the seam allowance. At this point, you should press the top. And it's important that you do this part right now, because we're gonna trim the top at the bottom. And before we're gonna trim the lining part at the bottom, I'm going to hand stitch the lining cup to the seam allowance on the main fabric from the inside. Do not panic if the cups do not fit, like the main cup and the lining. It should be a little bit above it. So here you can see what I hand stitch. And now just lay the top flat, and you will see how much you need to cut away of the lining. And it's gonna be around 5 millimeters that you need to cut down. Here I'm showing you how to make your boning flat, because usually when you buy boning it looks like this. So just take that boning, put it on the press board. I'm using baking paper again, and I'm pressing so it will help to create this smooth line. So here I've created the louvers panel. I'll just take that piece, fold it together and sew it together at the edges. Then turn it right side out and press. And now I'm putting boning inside of the louvers panel. Just put it all the way down and make a straight stitch. You've created a small pocket for the boning. This is what it should look like. And here I'm making a straight line. I did 1.5 centimeters and make a straight stitch on that line that you've made. And now I'm putting in another boning. And now make a straight stitch. So we created small pocket for the both bonings. And now just put the boning inside of those channels. Cut the boning 2 centimeters shorter than that channel is. And now it's time to connect the top at the bottom. You take the lining and the main part and pin them together and then sew them together. So after you sew them together, cut down the edges and then cut down the seam allowance. And here I'm creating small cuts also. When you turn the top right side out, it will not create any folds. I'm cutting down around 0.5 centimeters. And I made small cuts at the sides also. So now I'm taking the louvers panel and put it between the main part and the lining. Just pin them together and make a straight stitch. After you've sewn them together, just cut down the edges and cut down the seam allowance. And here you can see my mistake on the lining. Since I've understitched it, now I have to open up the understitch and the main stitch. You can choose any of the lining seams. Just open it up so you can turn the top right side out. You can see that opening in the lining, so you have to hand stitch it. And here, to secure the louvers panel, I'm going to make a straight stitch. So just make a straight stitch all the way down around 5 millimeters from the edge, and it should look like this. And here I'm making the dots for the louvers. I chose to do 5 louvers on each side, but you can do it as many as you can. You can do 4 or maybe 6 if you want to. And here I'm just installing the louvers. And after you've done this part, you're basically done with the top. All you need to do now is to add a cord. And my cord is 1.5 meters. Please let me know what you thought about this tutorial, and please let me know if there is something that you would like me to show more of. Thank you so much. Bye guys.